Welcome everyone to day 3 of the webinar, Get Free and Become Wealthy, Why Changing Your Mindset is Crucial to Accessing Abundance in Your Life. My name is Cynthia, and today we are meeting with the beautiful, intelligent Omaria Tucker, also known as the Millennial Soul Scribe. So Omaria, if people who do not know, I have met her through a wonderful group with another life coach that we are, in tandem with in a group, and she is an amazing person for me to have connected with. And I really, really am honored to be able to provide her a platform in which she can speak to us. So Omaria, she is a spiritual life mentor and manifestation strategist. She helps clients take their divine cosmic blueprints and natural talents to know their supreme purpose and manifest their goals. She built her platform as a nationally recognized millennial intuitive consultant, numerologist, and astrologist with a combined social following of over 3,000 followers. As a result of building her platform, she has had the privilege of working with brands like Mind Right Radio, S. Ollie Myers, Francis Revels Bay, and more. She has her own podcast, Soul Scribe Radio, and the show is built to inspire, transform, and reveal by sharing tools, tips, and practical experiences to help the everyday person evolve to meet their highest self or selves. When she's not helping her clients improve their online quality life, she can be found spending time with her children or reading a good book. So welcome, Omaria. It was so nice to have you here with us today.
Peace and greetings. Hello, Cynthia. Thank you so much for having me. It is definitely a pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, for everyone else, I spoke a little bit about how I met you, but one of the things that I really like that you do differently is that you are really focused on your soul group, which are millennials. I feel like there's a lot of people who focus on trying to get younger people or even older people, but you have a very specific target audience in which you want to work with. For those of you who would like to know more about that, you can check her, website out, and also on her featured speaker page for Get Free and Become Wealthy. But that age range in particular is ages 30s to 55, and she focuses a lot on women. And I find that to be really, really as specific as possible is great, because sometimes a lot of different business owners don't have that narrow focus, and as such it can be hard to build wealth when your specific niche, right, is too broad. And so I feel the fact that you've been able to narrow it down, you can really focus and, bring your magic to those women. I also really appreciate, your mission, your mission. For those of you who would like to also, all this information too, for those of you who want to know more about her, it was going to be on the website. But her mission in particular is to help more than 135 women connect to their inherent power of the goddess within and to create the life that they desire, to gain confidence in themselves, and to always find the joy of living. And then my third thing is oh my God, you guys, Omaria has one of the best smiles that I've ever seen in my entire life. And to have somebody, image is really important. And I feel when you have such an amazing, welcoming smile, many people feel really calm and easy to you're very approachable for that way. And I really, really, really love it as someone who also, loves to smile and to show up with my optimism. When I get to meet a fellow cheeky person, it's so fun. It's so great. And so, I really, really enjoy the fact that we get to meet each other in this avenue, and we get to be smiley and speak about being astrologers and numerologists, because we speak the same language. And so again, thank you so much for coming here to speak with us today.
Thank you, Cynthia. It is definitely a pleasure to be here. And like I told you guys when I first met you about my smile story, I used to practice my smile in the mirror. I don't know if I knew subconsciously that one day I would be in front of a camera talking to people and sharing my story. But subconsciously, when I was about 10 or 11, I would be in the mirror practicing my smile. So thank you. It tells me that the hard work paid off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it definitely has. And every time you smile, I'm just I just want to smile. It's so contagious. It's incredibly contagious. So I wanted to do a little quick trivia, astrology trivia for those of us who are listening, because I know you are an astrologer, and I would like people to learn a little bit more about you before we get into your story. So I first wanted to know, when is your birthday and what is your sun sign?
My birthday is August 28th, and the year is 1982. So it's 8/28/82. So I've always loved that combination of 8s and 2s, right? And then my sun sign is Virgo. When you look at Western astrology, and if you look at Vedic astrology, it is Leo.
That's what's up. The Hood Mystic, who I had interviewed just a couple of days prior, he's also a Virgo. So
I know, I saw that, and I was like, yeah, buddy.
Yeah, Team Virgo, hashtag. And then some more astrology information. I would also like to know, what is your moon in your rising sign?
My moon is very special because it's at 29 degrees Sagittarius. And so Capricorn is like right there on the cusp of, so I got a little bit of that Sagittarian Capricorn energy from my moon sign. And my ascendant rising sign is Scorpio.
I like that, introspective and penetrative. And
yes.
Analyzer. That's why I like those, especially having the numbers, right? Being able to analyze numbers and the math and like the cosmics, is really important. And I feel like the fact that like you're so drawn to astrology is such an interesting thing. Could you tell us a little bit more about what you love most about astrology? And then you started to talk a little bit about numerology. I know your birthday is one of those things where you started being like, I wonder about the 8s and the 2s. Can you tell us a little bit more about why you love these two divination systems?
Yeah, a little backstory, not to go too long, but when I was about 6 years old, I discovered my love for numbers and math. And I did that because I had an older brother, of course, and he was in high school and he was doing algebra at the time. It was the summertime, and I took his algebra book and started playing school in his algebra book. And that was my first ding, 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 you're gonna work with numbers. When I went to college, I got my Bachelor of Science degree in mathematics. And then a few years later, I got into the science of numerology. And then about 2 years after that, I started studying astrology. So it's like, it's been always on my path. I just didn't realize it at the time.
Yeah.
And my favorite, my most favorite thing to do with astrology is transit charts. I'm a natural planner, and I like to magnetize and utilize the energies of the cosmos to help me. So that's my favorite thing dealing with astrology, is working with those transit charts.
Hashtag Team Virgo, that organizing and planning. Like I told Kyrie, I have Jupiter in Virgo, and Jupiter is conjunct my sun. So like, I'm very Virgo-y, and so I really understand the energy, and I love it a lot. You spoke a little bit about your astrological, specialties, which is transits. Are there any other things that you focus in particular? So like in the future, if anybody wants to work with you, they're like, Omaria, she got me with this in particular.
Yeah, when we're looking at spiritual destinies, your North Node and South Node signs, I love to work on that to help people learn how to tap into that karmic healing that they need to take care of this lifetime so they can move forward and evolve more. And also just getting deep down and dirty and looking at that natal chart and just saying, hey, what's going on? Why do you do this? Why do you think you feel this way all the time? Why do people treat you differently? So that's what I love most about astrology.
That sounds great, and I'm really excited for anybody who takes that opportunity to work with you. As continuing on, as you know, like the subject of this huge webinar is about getting free and becoming wealthy, and I know in particular that astrology, numerology, and different types of divination systems are a great way for people to get free. But before you became that, before you decided to work with these systems and to up level and to change your life, could you tell us a little bit more about your story before that and like how you came to be the person that you are today?
My story. Ooh, you know, I was thinking about this even after we talked before, and when it comes to like a poverty conscious quote on consciousness thing, I don't really think I was affected in a negative way in regards to it, even though in my neighborhood, you know, I saw dilapidated houses. We had people in the area that had addictions. But my family, my mom, she was an RN, a registered nurse. So we were like a middle class family. However, when I was 10 years old, my mom got diagnosed with like fibromyalgia, arthritis, all that kind of stuff. So she had to retire early. And I had a stepdad, and I can remember her having conversations with people saying, you know, Vern said when Lane gets older, that's my middle name, Elaine, when she gets older, that everybody will be able to depend on her. He can just see it in her energy that everybody will be able to depend on her, right? And I think internally, mentally, I know it always weighed down on me. Like I had to be this person to take care of everybody. Yeah. And in the midst of being that person, I lost myself. So my definition of poverty consciousness in this moment when I was thinking about it is having that lack of confidence and power within yourself, not worrying about other people depending on you, but just knowing that you are okay regardless. In the interim, you know, I was student body president, I was on the band, I did this, that, went to college, graduated magna cum laude, and things pretty much came easy to me. And I can see how up to 25 years old, as little girls, we play with dolls and we play pretend, right? Up to 25 years old, I can go back and see where I created those instances. But once I got to around 25 to 27, my life was like, stop. And that's kind of where the consciousness issues came with me as regards to wealth, because I was at a place of like loss. My soul wasn't being fed. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I ended up losing my job, getting fired, right? And of course I was devastated. Yeah. And that's when the material issue of dealing with wealth came into mind, because now I had these financial obligations that I needed to take care of. And how am I going to take care of these things if I don't have a job? Yeah. During that time, I also was giving a diagnosis of a disease in my throat area, defined as hyperthyroidism, meaning my throat, that area, that gland was overworking itself, and it was because I wasn't speaking up enough. And that goes back to my point of I had an internal poverty consciousness within me of my own being. So that's kind of like my story of how I had to figure out how to turn that lack into greatness and more.
Wow. So thank you so much for sharing about that, because I feel like there, especially for a lot of listeners, like health issues and like losing their jobs, like, you know, some people are like, yeah, like I grew up middle class, I didn't grow up poor, and then there's all of a sudden it was like dunk in your adult age when everything just kind of fell apart and just kind of slid off, you know, into a landslide. That's what it sounds like. You know, everything was good, you were doing so well, magna cum laude, overachieving, do a bunch of stuff, and all of a sudden it just broke, and then you were like, oh my God, what do I do with myself? And then you realized, I don't even know myself. Like, how did this even, you know, you're like, how did I get to this place where I internalized a good message, right? Because like when you're like, because I know, and Vern writes your stepdad, so like when your stepdad said, you know, like, oh yes, like Elaine is going to do really well, and you can count on her, you can depend on her to take care of the whole family. You know, like your little brain was like, yes, yes, I have to take everything onto myself. And I feel like a lot of people really identify with that because there are many people who, myself included, you know, where like it was put upon me where like you are going to be the breadwinner of the family in the future. And like you're like, and instead of like being empowered by it, it like scared you shitless, you know, and then you just did everything you had to do to get to that point of being top and amazing. And then all of a sudden when it fell through, you were left with almost nothing. You know, like you said, you had a bunch of stuff that you had to pay for. So it's not like you were poor at that moment because you were surrounded by the things that you built, you know, the wealth that you had built up for yourself. But now you couldn't even sustain your own wealth. You know, and so one of the things I wanted to ask about that is, you know, when that happened, what blocks to money, especially to giving and I know because it sounds like you're like a giver, right? But like it sounds like there's also blocks to receiving that you started recognizing at that point. Could you speak a little bit more about like how those blocks also showed up in your life at that time and how you began to work through them?
Oh yeah, of course. You know those natural givers. Hold on for one second. I'm a mompreneur, guys, so this is like live television. You can't script this. Hold on for one moment. Yes, my dear love. How may I help you? No. We're not joking right now. Who's there? Donut. Donut who? I do not donut. You, oh my goodness. I'll be done. No, lovely. Okay. Okay, I'm not bragging.
That's so adorable.
Wow. Wow. I love it. That's how it goes, guys. That's how it goes. So the question was the giving and receiving.
Yeah.
Okay. So I am a natural giver. Mm-hmm. I was in that mode of taking care of everybody, making sure of everyone else being straight. But it seemed like when it came to me, I did not know how to ask for help. I did not know how to receive help from other people. And that is one of the, excuse me again, I apologize, guys. That was one of the blocks that I had. I had to learn how to receive again in order to really begin my wealth process again, begin to start heightening that consciousness side. And one thing that happened was, okay, so I got fired from my job. I have all these financial obligations. Mm-hmm. And I had just moved from one area of I live in South Carolina. I just moved from one area of South Carolina to another area of South Carolina. But I had a house at my past residence. I still had my house there. And my mom and brother lived there. So once I lost my job, of course, I can't take care of two households, quote unquote, right? And it became where it even got down to like foreclosure situations. Mm-hmm. And I had to cough up and use my voice and say, hey, I need you guys to, help me with this. I need you to take care of this for me because I can't do it. And that was the hardest thing for me to do. Even though when I talk to my mom now, she's like, well, how are we supposed to know if you didn't say anything? Mm-hmm. But in my head, I'm like, well, I'm supposed to be the one to take care of everything.
Yeah.
So why would I say anything to you about this? But that was it. Just really being able to ask for help and being able to allow and receive people helping me. And that's one of those, that's the currency of And it's making me think. Last night I just did a show on the Aquarian energy for this eclipse, that water bear.
Yeah.
Right? So that's that current, that flow. You got to allow things to go out and come in when we're talking about wealth consciousness.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree. I know personally, like, I'm a giver too, and receiving was one of my biggest blocks. And like, especially someone who is sick, like asking for help even when I'm sick is like a really big deal. And I know for a lot of people that is a really big deal. It's really uncomfortable. A lot of people, especially in our society, it's like do it yourself, individualist sort of, society. And a lot of people prescribe to that mindset. So I wanted to know, what were some of the things you began doing to change that mindset and to begin, flowing with this Aquarian flow? And also it's reminiscent of the flow of money. It's a give and receive. You're constantly moving this energy through your hands. And so I want to know, what were some of the things that you did, and what was the main decision that you had to make in order to shift your relationship with money?
Ooh, great question. Some of the work that I had to start doing was really internal, believing in myself again. Knowing that I am a divine being. And so during the process of losing my job, I started creating products and like natural hair care products, shea butter, creams, and all that kind of stuff, right? So I would go to the market. People call it a flea market. I don't like the word flea for market, but anyway, I would go to the market and sell stuff, right? And one day, I go by this vendor's table and she has books that she sells. And lo and behold, I pick up this book that has a purple cover on it, and I forgot to get the name of it for you. But either way, it was about Goddess Oya. Oya, the goddess of transformation and change. And when I read that, when I picked up the book and started flipping through the pages, I was like, what? Are they talking about me? What's going on? That was like the spark of, okay, Omaria, you're going through changes right now. And if you don't change, it's going to keep going downhill. So you got to make the decision to change. And once I started reading the book, I started studying like African traditional religions, ATRs. I started getting to know myself, like man, know thyself. I was already into like all kinds of different cultures and religions ever since I was like 12 years old. But I really started to dig deep to feed my soul with it now and try to get the meat of it and how I can use it to help me on my path. So, looking at religion and cultural traditions as a way that I can utilize the information instead of just reading it and being able to regurgitate it, I just started to actually figure out how to use it. I also started using like affirmations and mantras. And another connection is that I got coaches. Shout out to Coach Kair. When I enrolled in his class, he was playing Reverend Ike, right? Reverend Ike and Carter. And for those that don't know of Reverend Ike, he's the money preacher. That's what everybody called him. He was a money preacher. But he was really a preacher that taught people how to tap into the God in me. And I love that when he says God in me. So starting that affirmative process of talking to Omaria, the soul, the spirit of Omaria, that was the main thing that really got me turned around and on my path again, as far as beginning to accumulate wealth and knowing how to circulate that wealth and that currency of financial prosperity, material prosperity, internal prosperity. What does he say? Health, success, wealth, prosperity, and money. I had to look at them in all those ways.
Oh man, Priestess Sekhmet too. She was someone who spoke a little bit earlier about her dedication to Reverend Ike. She even has a Reverend Ike altar, and I know a lot of people venerate this man. He's an amazing person. Like listening to his sermons, it's like I'm like, pasteurize me, Reverend, all day long.
Yes, that's my preacher. On Sunday mornings, I listen to Reverend Ike.
His work is highly transformative, and I would recommend anybody who's listening to definitely check out Reverend Ike. And Coach Kyra is someone too that you guys could connect with, because both of these people have been really transformative for more than one of our speakers that we've had so far. So I would definitely check them out. I love that, the goddess Oya was part of that. She is the goddess of like storms and transformations too, and like major change. And I feel like a lot of people sometimes feel that there's a storm happening in their life, and that they are like, they feel like they're drowning, that they feel like electricity is just blowing all around them, that they're like in the middle of a tornado, like the hot air and the cold air, like what is all of this? And I feel like having a spiritual framework and a spiritual perspective and a larger perspective really helps to contextualize a lot of what's happening in your life so that you can take it less personally. And I feel like that's something that I'm hearing from you that's really important, is that you have to begin to take things less personally and start recognizing also at the same time like how you yourself could co-create your reality, because you're a co-creator and you're not just a victim to your own circumstance, and that you have the power to do this. And with the spiritual teachings that you began to follow, and hearing the God in me, like, yes, actually, yeah, that is me too. And like you're like, I don't have to sit here and allow the storm to drown me and wash me away. You're like, I can take control of my life. And I could start, in one of those steps was reaching out to your family and being like, hey, I really need you to pay this for me, because otherwise all of us are going to like be sinking. Not just me, like all of us around here, and you spoke a little bit about how ATRs, numerology and astrology have been really important for you, but what were some other tools that you would say really helped you to elevate your consciousness and to get yourself out of your poverty mindset that you were thrusted into, which was, like you said, a lack of self, and a lack of fortifying of the self, and like not really knowing who this spirit that inhabited this body really was and what they wanted. Can you speak a little bit more about some of these tools that you use to strengthen yourself further?
Yes. Something else that I do that is a little different than most spiritual leaders or teachers would teach is, a lot of people talk about meditation and quiet meditation and, sitting down and and coming into the inner you to listen to the voice in your head. But for me, being that Virgo energy, the activity in my brain going off, always thinking, I never thought I was meditating correctly. Not knowing that, yeah, you are supposed to hear yourself when you're sitting quiet, right? But doing walking meditations, but I also incorporate mantras and divine world prayers. So if I'm sitting down at my altar, or I sometimes like to tell people I'm a walking meditation, because sometimes I'm always either saying a mantra in my head or praying in my head. And that, when I do that, it's like I get my divine messages that way. I get creative ideas and aha moments I have when I'm just sitting down at my desk or walking in the grocery store saying a prayer. And you know what? I didn't tell you this before, but shout out to Tina Turner.
Hey.
And On Your Whole Ringekyo. That used to be my favorite movie as a child. I knew the entire movie word for word, right? And that just rung in my head just now as I was talking to you. It's like, you know what, Omaria? You were saying mantras too. You were chanting too back then. I was chanting. I love to chant. That is my that's my number one. When I really look at it, that's my number one thing. I'm the soul scribe. I love sacred sounds, and being able to chant or to sing and speak to myself in those words of power.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
I love that. It's like a real synthesis of left and right brain. You know, like you have the sounds, but there's also the technicality of like, you know, like what, like having to make sure that they're precise things, like especially when it comes to mantras, right? Like you're like needing to pronounce things correctly. There's like a specific way that you follow, like there's maybe a specific time in which you want to say this. And so it like really incorporates like the numerology, which is like more left brain, and then like the actual like sound part, which comes through the right brain, right? And so like to be able to have, like, you can see me doing like this at the same time, so my brain is taking it in. Like, you know, as a Mercury in Libra, that's very soothing to me. I'm like, yes, I understand that so well. Because yeah, I think something that you said that's really, really, really important that I want to super emphasize for like a lot of people listening is that meditation does not have to look one singular way. I know the Hood Mystic was speaking about that in his last video about just really how important it is to take that time to do meditation, and that meditation for him is like the number one thing. And for you too, it is using the time for yourself, and whether you're sitting in silence or you're listening to something, or like we spoke about, you know, walking meditations, you too. So for some people it's dance. For other people it's, you know, having to have yoga. You know, for other people it's the process of playing your instrument. Like personally, my upbringing is I'm a musician. Like I'm a trained musician. I'm in classical, jazz, and Chinese classical music. And then also like in singing Chinese opera. And so for myself, you know, there's a lot of focus, discipline, you know, a lot of like having to quiet yourself to hear, you know, different sacred sounds and tones, you know, being able to work with multiple scales, not just the Western scale, but pentatonic scales, you know, and having to be able to, you know, synthesize all these different keys. Like even just playing your instrument is its own form of meditation. And I feel like a lot of people feel like they have to just sit there quietly. And when they hear a chatter, they're like, I'm not doing this right. And, you know, like you saying that, I was like, yes, I really want people to listen to that, because there is no one right way to do meditation. And when like hearing your own thoughts is really important. You really need to just, part of it is like too many of us are resisting what it is that we're already thinking. And too many of us are already pushing and fighting about the guidance that's coming through us. But if you just allow the guidance to come through, like within like, if you have to just sit and om for like 5 seconds or just make sounds, like personally, like one of the things that I do is I'll make a sound that's resonant to me, just a tone that I like, and I'll feel it in a different part of my body, and I'll just be like, all right, that is my sound for today. And like I'll just use that sound. And throughout the day, when I feel like everything is going crazy around me, I'm just like, and like I'll just use that throughout the day. And like for some people, it feels a little crazy. I do it a lot when I watch, like I go to a Clippers game, or I would go to a Warriors game, because basketball is a thing. Like I love basketball. And like when I go out in public, or if I'm on public transit, you know, like some of those times where they're like, you must meditate, and people are like, I can't be quiet, play a sound. You know, like listen to some sounds. Singing bowls are really gorgeous for those of you who love resonant and harmonious sounds. Binaural beats is something that's really important that I love to use. And for those of you who don't necessarily know what that is, it's when you have two different sound frequencies coming through to your brain, and your brain subtracts, and it creates a very small like amount of like hertz. It's usually like between 4 to 7, 3 to 6. There's different hertz for like delta waves, theta waves, alpha, and beta. And when you want to meditate, you want to put in delta and theta. And you can find these binaural beats, you know, on YouTube. And if you can't deal with being totally quiet, or like sitting in the dark to meditate with dark energy, turn on the light and have your headphones in and just listen to it. And you just know, like, all right, anything that happens to me and comes through me, this is what I need to be hearing at the moment. It'll pass, and I can move on with the rest of my day. And it's just, for that reason, that's why people recommend it to be, you know, to be done in the morning or in the evening, because it can, or all times of their day. I like to do it multiple times a day, even just for a few minutes at a time, because I know that it really helps me to bring myself back to me, and like
Mhm.
like I'm not just so overwhelmed by everything else that's happening in real life.
Yes, and especially with the type of work we do, with helping people and being tapped into the spirit world, and all the messages that come through. Because when you're reading somebody's chart, it's really very intuitive for each week. You're not going to get the same message because it's very intuitive when you sit there and look at that chart. And it's like, bro, for me, I can definitely say it's like the planets start talking to me.
Mm-hmm. They're like,
and
hey.
So you're open like that, you have to find a way to bring yourself down. And also for a lot of empaths and people that they know they can't go to a mall because all of that energy is like, Take Cynthia's advice, find your own personal sound. And when you're in those environments where you just can't run and leave really quick, find your own personal sound and hum it on out. Or go to the bathroom really quick and hum it and keep it moving.
Yeah, I always keep headphones when I go to the mall, and I do the same thing. I have to play like not even music to compete. It has to be like a binaural beat or like a singing bowl. I'm just like, I can't listen to this fast-paced craziness. I was like, the way they play the music makes me just want to leave the mall, period. I'm like, I don't even want to be here. But like, well, I need to buy clothes. Troubles of being a real life human, right?
Right.
No, but also speaking about like again, like being human, like a lot of the stuff, we talk about, for a lot of people can seem like really witchy, like really new age, like really woo woo. And I know like maybe not everybody in your own personal family, subscribes to these beliefs, or they even subscribe to these methods. And I wanted to know a little bit more about, what happened with your relationships, your friends, your family, if you were in any romantic relationships as you began, to become more into yourself and as you began to build your wealth up.
Okay. For me, I have this this extrovert introvert thing going on, where like if I have to be out in the public, I know how to conduct myself and be that friendly person, but when I come home, I am an introvert and I just want to be by myself, and I'm a loner. So during this process of finding Omaria, I was very introverted. And it wasn't anything against like my friends and family, but I think it was just that time of finding myself that I had to really come in and figure out what was going on with me. And even to this day, I love my friends, because my real true friends, which they are my sisters, because they understood and they understand, like if they invite me somewhere and I'm like, I don't know if I can come, but they still invite me, hoping that I'll show up one day. But they understand, I believe, that I am going through my own internal process. I give thanks for my family, being that as a child, I had people in all different types of religious, Protestant type religious faith. So, for example, my grandmother went to a Baptist church. My grandfather was Methodist. I had an aunt who was like Holy Ghost sanctified. My mom ended up going to a Presbyterian church. I decided I wanted to join the Baha'i faith when I was 12 years old one summer. So it was like a melting pot of different religious beliefs, and I am so thankful that I had that upbringing, even though I still was in the closet a little bit, especially when it comes to your witchy woo-woo work stuff. But I think a lot of people know what I do now, because
I think so.
But myself and starting to use my voice helped me to transcend any type of judgment that would come my way, because as I began to open up my voice and telling my thyroid, you don't have to work so hard anymore, I feel like, and I know that people became more closer to me. Because now I was talking to them and I was sharing my experiences and I was telling them about my path. My mom now, she called me the other day because my godmom, hey Cindy, if you're seeing this, I apologize if this is not, you don't give me permission, but nobody knows who you are. My godmom, she hears and sees spirits. And just the other day, she messaged me and said, can you talk to me about this? Now, if I wasn't out of the closet and open with who I am and what I do, she wouldn't have had the courage to come and tell me that and let me talk her through it. So being able to start knowing that it's okay to use my voice was the problem. Nobody was judging me. I was judging my own self. And I apologize if this went off on a tangent.
No,
because I have forgotten the question.
No, you're answering it. The question was about, the relationships and how those dynamics changed, as you became more into yourself. And this is exactly it. Like you had an issue before where you were giving, but you were giving to them, but not of yourself. And like you were not willing to receive. You wanted just to do everything on your own. But because you were allowing yourself to communicate freely with your friends and your family, they began to feel more comfortable communicating with you. And I feel like sometimes, a lot of people in particular feel like their family is, that they're alone from their family and that the people in their family don't know anything about them. But one of the first things I would ask is like, well, how much are you willing to be open with your family? How much are you willing to stand up and be really who you are and to speak from that place, as opposed to speaking from a place of who I think my parents want me to be, or who I think my siblings want me to be, or who I think like my relatives want me to be. And, because like a lot of the times in our own relationships, we function from a place of, working only with projections. The Hood Mystic spoke a little bit about, the importance of projecting yourself. And you're, speaking about the importance of projecting yourself from your real core, who you really are truly and what your spirit really resonates with and what they really honor. And when you're not able to speak from that place and you don't do that, other people do not feel comfortable meeting you in that way. So all your interactions are very superficial. All of them are just about where are we going to eat? Where are we going to sleep? Give me money. That's it. Like base level survival root chakra stuff, right? That's all we talk about. We don't talk about like what makes what you do with your creativity. We don't really talk about who you are on the inside. We don't really talk about what it is that you really love and admire. We don't really talk about what are the things you really would love to speak about but you can't. What is it that you're really seeing that you're not telling us, right? And then what is it that like really feeds you? Like where are you getting these messages from anyways, right? That was good. That's a good breakdown of the chakras, right? Because we don't do this, right? Because we get stuck in a very base level, I'm so stuck with my money root chakra. None of the other channels in which you engage with people happen, and so people lose their relationships. And and I think it's really wonderful that you were able to strengthen your relationships and yours got stronger and more richer and more beautiful and more colorful and more honest as a result, because that doesn't apply to everybody. And I think for people who are listening in, understanding that this is one of the keys, really standing in your truth and speaking from that place of power is what enables your family to empower themselves to connect with you in a really strong and deep way. So no, you were on point. You were flowing. I really appreciate that. And so I really, really, really appreciate that because on my own end, just recently, in my own manifestation works, once I was able to clear my own stuff, yeah, that's when my family started reconnecting with me. That's when all of a sudden money, started to come back through. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not alone here on this planet. Because, right, I'm being really true to me and speaking from a place of where I'm at. And the universe is like, you finally made a decision? Cool. Like, we'll clear everything in the way.
You passed that test.
Yeah, exactly. And it's no longer just like, oh, like I'm free floating in the middle of nowhere. Oh yeah, these storms, everything, right? They're like, oh, okay, you know what you want to do? Cool. I'll clear the water and, I'll part the seas, and here's the path right in front of you. So, I think that is like a really, really wonderful thing. We were able to speak a lot about like your metaphysical stuff, some of the spiritual perspectives, some of your occult tools that you work with, and some of the different things that you have been able to up level out of. I really want to speak to like, what is it now that you do? We spoke a little bit about like the journey to get to that point, but what is it more that you do now? How has things changed since that time when you found that purple book?
Oh, how has things changed? Well, I'm here. I'm with you. You know what I'm saying? That is total manifestation and creation. I was able to find out. Okay, baby. One moment, guys. I apologize. Lovely. I'll be done in a little while, okay? Okay. That's the 5-year-old, guys. She's using all of her Mercury energy right now. What have I been able to gain? I have been able to gain creating life the way I want to create it, when I want to create it, how I want to create it. I have been able to gain my house back. I didn't lose my house in foreclosure. I was able to get me another corporate gig as I continue to build my spiritual business as a soulpreneur, to assist the masses, right? I have been able to gain Omaria back and her confidence and being cool with who I am and being able to show other people that it's cool to be who they are. I don't know. It's just like, I feel like I've gained the universe. You know what I mean? It's just, I feel like I have everything. And if I don't have it right here, physically, materially in my hand, I know I can create it. And that's that God in me. That's that knowing that, yes, I am made in the image of the gods and goddesses. Mm-hmm. I can tap into that energy whenever I want to and do whatever I want to with it. And I'll be supported by the universe. That's what I've really gained.
Oh, that is so wonderful. And I really, really find that to be so beautiful. Like, you were able to really build wealth internally. Mm. And like, what I'm hearing you say is like, if it does not exist around me, I can create it. And if it is not here right now, it will be here in the near future. And if it's not something that I can see, it's something that I believe and I trust will come to me. And, you are a great example of what this is like, because I feel like, especially for our communities, there is a lot of fear in being the God self ourselves. There's a lot of fear in taking full responsibility of your whole life, for various reasons, whether it be, like a lot of the mindset is teaching that, like, here we are, we're all, we're descendants of slaves, or my family were immigrants, or we didn't have anything growing up, so it's going to be very hard for me to make anything, or, there's a lot of different other things I could fill in the blanks there, right? Like, my family never had enough. We're middle class. I don't want to not be middle class. I don't, there's a lot of these like mindset things that are in the way. of
Yeah.
people just being like, just clearing that aside and being like, actually, like, I'm the one who rules my life. And like, I am the person who can figure out what my life will be like, no matter who's in office, no matter what president, you know, like what party is ruling the government, no matter like whether or not we're in famine or flood, whether or not we're in, like, I'm in California, right? We've been in drought for so long, but people have been, you know, able to navigate their lives. Some people have had it harder than others, right? But like, that's part of the challenge of needing to, you know, to, like we said, like to work through a challenge and to up level and come to a place of understanding. And it's really to develop deep internal spiritual understanding. Because if there's nothing to refill you internally, like there ain't nothing, like no matter what you buy or manifest, it's not gonna fill the hole on the inside, right? So, you know, like it don't work like that.
Exactly.
And so like with that being said, I would like to take a break and to come back. There are definitely a couple more questions that I would love to ask you. And for those of us who are still watching, you know, this is the Get Free and Become Wealthy webinar, a web series. Actually, I turned it to a 22 speaker web series. Hey, so we'll get a definite, you know, 22 people in, and I really want to be able to give us a couple minutes to just regroup and to figure out what it is that we're going to talk about next, because I have way more things to ask you that I didn't really tell you that I wanted to ask you. So, so we're going to get this through. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
Bye. See you.